Hello everyone, and welcome back to our series on algorithms. In the last video, we briefly went over branch and bound, a technique for practically solving NP-complete problems. In this video, we will move in a completely different direction to discuss linear programming and how it can be used to solve linear optimization problems. If you enjoy this lecture, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. With that, let's begin. Before we can discuss how LP works, we must first define what we mean by optimization problem. In general, we have two types of optimization problems, minimization and maximization. Suppose we are given a function f from d to r. Suppose we want to constrain our space for optimization to some subset f of d, labeled as the feasible region. A minimization problem would ask us to find some value x in f such that f of x is less than or equal to f of y for all y in f, while a maximization problem would ask us to find an x in f for which f of x is greater than or equal to f of y for all y in f. For linear programming, we take D to be Rn, the space of n-dimensional real-valued vectors, and we take f to be linear, meaning that f of x is equal to C transpose times x, where C is in Rn. The feasible region F is taken to be a convex polytope. The polytope itself is n-dimensional because the dimension is given by the number of variables we are optimizing over. Furthermore, each face of the polytope corresponds to an affine inequality which the parameters we are optimizing must satisfy, in other words, a constraint. This polytope is also convex, meaning that for any x, y, and f, and for any lambda and 0, 1, we have that lambda x plus 1 minus lambda y is an f, effectively meaning that any line segment between 2 points in the set is also in the set. Hence, every point contained inside this convex polytope is within our feasible set. As we will show later, if we have a feasible set f and the optimal value is finite, this optimal value must be located at one of the vertices of the polytope. Now that we've discussed the mathematical intuition behind LP, let's get into the actual formalism. The standard form of a LP problem is shown on screen. As you can see, there are three parts to this statement. The first line represents the objective function, which we are either trying to maximize or minimize. In the standard form of the LP problem, this condition is typically a maximization condition. However, any minimization problem can always be converted into an equivalent maximization condition by simply negating the objective function. The second line effectively compiles all of the constraints our parameters are subject to into a single matrix expression, which defines our feasible region F. Lastly, the third line specifies any variables which are non-negative. Let's take a look at an example of how to formulate a LP by looking at a familiar problem, max flow. Consider the following flow network. We have that the function we want to maximize is the total flow going out from the source. The constraints in this case are the capacities of each edge and flow conservation, which gives us the following inequalities and equalities. Simplifying this further, we can rewrite this problem in standard form. Solving this LP gives us the solution to the max flow problem. As mentioned previously, if the optimal solution to a LP problem is finite, it must lie at one of the vertices of the polytope. We can prove this as follows. By convexity, we have that any point x inside the polytope can be represented as the following weighted sum, where the sum of weights is equal to 1 and each vi corresponds to a vertex on the polytope. Assume that x is the optimal value and that f of x equals opt. By linearity, we must have that there exists at least one vertex for which f of vi is greater than or equal to opt, since if all f of vi's is less than opt for all I, we would have that f of x is less than opt, which is a contradiction. Hence, we have that the optimal value lies at a vertex. Therefore, you might think that one algorithm for solving LP problems could simply be iterating over all vertices of the polytope. This would in fact give the correct answer. However, as the number of faces and dimensions of the polytope scales, this quickly becomes intractable, as an n-dimensional polytope defined by m half-planes can have up to n plus m choose n vertices. For a concrete example, if our convex polytope is defined as a n-dimensional cube, it has 2 to the n vertices, meaning that iterating over all the vertices would be an exponential procedure. Hence, to solve LP problems efficiently, we should avoid brute forcing every single vertex if possible. We will see how to do this in the next video using the simplex algorithm. For now, let's move on. Previously, we discussed the standard form of a linear program. This type of LP is named the primal LP. For each primal LP, we can also define what's called a dual LP. This is accomplished by switching the optimization type and swapping the constraints and objective function coefficients. For example, if we have the standard form of a primal maximization problem on the left, the equivalent dual minimization problem is shown here on the right. To gain some further intuition on the dual, let's consider the dual of the max flow problem discussed earlier. Swapping the constraints and objective coefficients, we instead get the following minimization problem. Note that the new objective coefficients correspond to capacities of edges in the graphs, meaning that we are trying to minimize a linear combination of capacities. Furthermore, the constraint states that we must have that certain linear combinations of edges should be greater than or equal to 1. If we actually look at the linear combinations themselves, we can see that the non-zero terms correspond to an augmenting path from the source to the sink. Altogether, we are effectively choosing sets of edges which disconnect the source from the sink. In other words, we are trying to find the min cut of the flow network. Therefore, as expected, we have that the dual to the max flow problem is the min cut problem. For another example, consider the following arrangement. Suppose you have a salesman who sells pens for $1 and markers for $2. Suppose each item takes labor, ink, and plastic to make, with pens taking L1 units of labor, I1 units of ink, and P1 units of plastic, and markers taking L2 units of labor, I2 units of ink, and P2 units of plastic. Suppose that the seller only has L units of labor, I units of ink, and P units of plastic total. Suppose the seller wants to maximize the amount of money he would make by selling pens and markers. How would he formulate this as a primal LP problem? Pause the video and come up with an answer. Writing out the objective function and the constraints, we have the following. What would be the dual to this problem? Pause the video again and think about your answer. Using the form described previously, we can write the dual as follows. We can interpret the dual in this case as corresponding to the market trying to minimize the amount of resources available for the seller whilst still allowing him to sell goods. Naturally, one question which likely arises is why we would even bother finding the dual of a problem. Well, suppose that x and y are feasible for the primal and dual problems respectively. This means that ax is less than or equal to b and a transpose y is greater than or equal to c. With some algebraic manipulation, we can obtain the following bounds, which show that the objective value of any feasible solution to the dual upper bounds that for the primal. Note that here we are assuming that the primal is a maximization problem and the dual is a minimization. This property is known as weak duality. If P is feasible and bounded, we can come up with an even stronger condition, known as strong duality, which is that if X star is an optimal solution to P, there exists an optimal solution Y star to D, for which the inequality from before becomes an equality. I won't prove this result here, but it can be shown using the separating hyperplane theorem. Integer linear programs are just like standard linear programs, except they have an additional constraint, being that X has to be an integer vector. ILPs are NP hard to solve, meaning that in practical settings they're usually either solved exactly using a combination of heuristics or approximated. In this section, we will see how to approximate solutions to ILPs using our standard LPs. Immediately, we can observe that the feasible set of solutions for a given ILP is simply a subset of the feasible set of the equivalent LP. This means that the LP formulation is a relaxation of the ILP problem, since we are effectively expanding the feasible space of solutions whilst keeping the objective the same. Hence, the optimal solution to the LP will be at least as optimal as the optimal solution to the ILP. Let's look at an example to see such a strategy in action. Consider the set cover problem, where we are given m sets over a universal set of n elements, where each set has an associated cost ci. The goal is to find the set of sets at the lowest cost for which their union is equal to the universe. We can express this as an ILP minimization problem as follows. Note that we can express this as a standard maximization problem by just negating the objective function and the constraints. But for simplicity, we will keep the expression as it is for now. If we relax the integer requirement to allow any yi in 0 to 1, we get the following LP. We could then convert the LP solution to an integer vector to approximate the ILP solution. However, we can't just randomly sample zeros and ones using each value in the solution as a probability, since this may not give a feasible solution that actually forms a set cover. So, what do? Well, to get around this issue, we can simply repeat this process until the union of all the sample solutions we get forms a set cover. Here is a formal statement of this algorithm. Let's now analyze the probability that this rounding procedure terminates after a given number of iterations, as well as the accuracy of this procedure. Mathematically, we have that if there's a set of Bernoulli random variables whose probabilities sum to a value greater than or equal to 1, the probability that a vector sampled from these random variables is completely 0 is bounded above by 1 over e. Using this result, we can bound the probability that any individual element I and u is not covered by iteration 1 as 1 over e. Since each iteration is independent from each other, this gives us that the probability that any individual element is not covered by iteration L as being upper bounded by e to the negative L. Consequently, from the union bound, we have that the probability that there exists I in U such that it is not covered by the set after log U plus L iterations is upper bounded by e to the negative L. Hence, after at most log U plus L iterations, the algorithm must terminate with probability greater than or equal to 1 minus e to the negative L. Here we can see that running the algorithm for more iterations clearly increases the probability the solution obtained is feasible. However, this also means that the resulting solution will likely have a significantly higher cost than solutions obtained in fewer iterations. We can bound the cost of this approximate solution as follows. To note the cost of the aggregate solution after t iterations is Vt equals c.zt. We can observe that the set J is included in the set cover if and only if the sum from I to t of Qi sub j is greater than or equal to 1. Hence, we have that Vt is upper bounded by the sum from I equals 1 to t of c dot Qi. Taking the expected value of both sides gives us that E of Vt is less than or equal to t times c dot y star, which is equal to t times opt LP, where opt LP is the optimal solution to the LP problem, which is less than or equal to t times opt ILP, which is the same for the ILP problem. By Markov's inequality, this gives us that P of Vt is greater than or equal to 2t times opt LP is less than or equal to 1/2. Hence, with probability at least 1/2, we will obtain a solution within 2t times the optimal ILP solution. Consider the following example with L equals 3. After t equals log u plus 3 iterations, we have that the probability of the algorithm does not terminate as being e to the negative 3 or approximately 0.05. Furthermore, we have that the solution has too high a cost is at most 0.5. Hence, we have that the probability that the algorithm fails to find a feasible solution in each run is at most 0.55. Hence, after k iterations, the probability of failure scales is upper bounded by 0.55 to the k, meaning that this probability decays exponentially. Bounding the accuracy of this approximation, we have that the total cost of our solution is within 2 times log u plus 6 times the true ILP optimal solution. Overall, linear programming is a powerful formalism for solving all kinds of optimization problems. In the next video, we will discuss how to solve LPs using the simplex algorithm. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.